World War I, often called the Great War, was more than just a conflict between nations. It was a turning point that reshaped the entire globe. Before 1914, the world was dominated by empires and monarchies, with borders drawn by centuries of tradition. But after 4 years of brutal fighting, millions of lives lost, and empires toppled, the world emerged fundamentally changed. In this video, we'll explore how World War I created the modern world, from redrawn borders and new ideologies to unresolved problems that still affect us today. Let's begin our journey by looking at the world before the war. In the early 20th century, Europe was a continent of powerful empires. The British, French, Russian, Austro-Hungarian, and Ottoman monarchs ruled vast territories, and the balance of power was maintained through alliances and diplomacy. Nationalism simmered beneath the surface, but most people couldn't imagine the world changing so dramatically. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914, however, set off a chain reaction that would unravel this old order. To understand the impact of World War I, we must first see how stable and interconnected the world seemed before the conflict. The assassination in Sarajevo triggered a web of alliances, pulling country after country into conflict. What began as a regional dispute quickly escalated into a global war, involving colonies and distant nations. The world watched as old alliances crumbled and new enemies emerged. Trench warfare, new technologies, and mass mobilization changed the nature of conflict forever. The war's scale and devastation shocked everyone, setting the stage for a new era. By the end of World War I, 4 major empires had collapsed: the Russian, Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, and German. Monarchies that had ruled for centuries were swept away, replaced by new governments and ideologies. The fall of these empires created power vacuums and instability, especially in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. The world map was about to be redrawn, and the consequences would be felt for generations. The Treaty of Versailles and other peace agreements redrew the borders of Europe and the Middle East. New countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia appeared, while old ones disappeared. In the Middle East, arbitrary borders were drawn by colonial powers, often ignoring ethnic and religious realities. These new borders created tensions and conflicts that still exist today. The world's political map was forever changed. From the ashes of empires, new nations were born. Many people finally gained a sense of national identity and self-determination. However, not all groups were satisfied with the new arrangements. Some minorities found themselves in hostile states, and disputes over territory and governance began almost immediately. The idea of the nation-state became central to world politics, influencing conflicts and alliances for decades to come. World War I didn't just change borders, it changed ideas. The trauma of war led to the rise of new ideologies like communism, fascism, and nationalism. In Russia, revolution brought the world's first communist state. In Italy and Germany, anger and disillusionment fueled the rise of fascist movements. These ideologies would shape the 20th century, leading to new conflicts and revolutions. The strain of war pushed Russia to the brink. In 1917, revolution erupted, overthrowing the Tsar and eventually bringing the Bolsheviks to power. The Russian Revolution not only changed Russia, but inspired communist movements worldwide. The creation of the Soviet Union would have profound effects on global politics, setting up a new ideological rivalry that would last throughout the 20th century. In Italy and Germany, the aftermath of World War I created fertile ground for fascist ideologies. Economic hardship, political instability, and resentment over the peace treaties led to the rise of leaders like Mussolini and Hitler. These movements promised order and national revival, but at a terrible cost. The seeds of future conflict were sown in the chaos of the post-war years. After the devastation of World War I, leaders hoped to prevent future wars by creating the League of Nations. This international organization aimed to resolve disputes peacefully and promote cooperation. While it was a bold experiment in global governance, the League ultimately failed to stop aggression in the 1930s. Still, it laid the groundwork for the United Nations and the idea of collective security. The war left Europe devastated economically. Cities and infrastructure were destroyed, and millions of people were displaced. The cost of rebuilding was enormous, and many countries struggled with debt and inflation. The economic instability of the 1920s and 1930s contributed to the rise of extremist movements and set the stage for the Great Depression. The scars of World War I were felt in every aspect of life. World War I changed societies as well as borders. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers, filling roles left by men who went to fight. Social hierarchies were challenged, and new opportunities emerged for many groups. The war also brought trauma and loss, changing attitudes toward authority and tradition. The modern world's social fabric was woven in the aftermath of the Great War. World War I was a laboratory for new technologies. Tanks, airplanes, machine guns, and chemical weapons changed the face of warfare. These innovations didn't just stay on the battlefield. They influenced civilian life, industry, and transportation. The rapid pace of technological change during and after the war set the stage for the modern era. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire led to the creation of new states in the Middle East. Britain and France divided the region into mandates, drawing borders that often ignored local realities. This set the stage for decades of conflict and instability. The legacy of these decisions continues to shape the Middle East today. Many of the problems created by World War I were never fully resolved. Ethnic tensions, disputed borders, and political grievances simmered beneath the surface. In some cases, these unresolved issues led directly to World War II and later conflicts. The legacy of the Great War is one of both hope and warning, a reminder that peace must be carefully built and maintained. The war created a lost generation, millions of young people who were killed, wounded, or traumatized. Artists, writers, and thinkers struggled to make sense of the destruction. Their works reflected a sense of disillusionment and questioning of old values. The cultural impact of World War I can still be felt in literature, art, and philosophy. With men away at war, women took on new roles in factories, offices, and even politics. After the war, many countries granted women the right to vote and greater social freedoms. The struggle for gender equality gained momentum, and the modern women's rights movement was born out of the changes brought by World War I. The collapse of monarchies and empires opened the door for new forms of government. Many countries experimented with democracy, hoping to create more just and stable societies. While not all experiments succeeded, the idea of popular sovereignty became a powerful force in world politics. The modern age of democracy was born in the aftermath of World War I. The principle of self-determination inspired many peoples to seek their own nation-states. However, nationalism also fueled exclusion, intolerance, and conflict. In some regions, minorities were persecuted or displaced. The double-edged sword of nationalism would shape the 20th century, for better and for worse. World War I weakened European empires, but colonialism persisted. Colonized peoples fought in the war, hoping for greater rights and independence. After the war, some progress was made, but most colonies remained under foreign control. The struggle for independence would intensify in the decades to come, reshaping Africa, Asia, and the world. World War I marked the United States' emergence as a global power. American troops and resources helped tip the balance in favor of the Allies. After the war, the U.S. played a leading role in shaping the peace, even as it retreated into isolationism. The seeds of future American leadership were planted during and after the Great War. The Treaty of Versailles was the most famous and controversial peace settlement of World War I. It imposed harsh terms on Germany, including territorial losses, military restrictions, and heavy reparations. Many Germans saw the treaty as a humiliation, fueling resentment and instability. The treaty's legacy would haunt Europe for decades. Despite hopes for lasting peace, many problems remained unresolved after World War I. Border disputes, minority rights, and economic instability continued to plague Europe and the world. These unresolved issues would contribute to the outbreak of World War II and other conflicts. The lessons of the Great War remind us that peace is always a work in progress. The borders drawn after World War I continue to shape the Middle East today. Many of the region's conflicts can be traced back to decisions made by colonial powers a century ago. Understanding the origins of these borders helps explain the challenges facing the modern Middle East. World War I spurred efforts to create new rules for international relations. The idea of holding leaders accountable for war crimes and protecting human rights gained traction. While progress was slow, the seeds of modern international law were planted in the aftermath of the Great War. The trauma of World War I led to major cultural shifts. Traditional values were questioned, and new artistic movements like modernism and surrealism emerged. Music, literature, and art reflected the uncertainty and experimentation of the age. The cultural legacy of the war continues to influence us today. The demands of war accelerated advances in science and medicine. New surgical techniques, treatments for injuries, and understanding of diseases emerged from the battlefield. These advances saved lives during the war and improved healthcare in peacetime. The modern world's medical landscape owes much to the innovations of World War I. World War I was truly a global conflict. Battles were fought in Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Colonies and distant nations were drawn into the fighting, and the war's effects were felt worldwide. The interconnectedness of the modern world can be traced back to the alliances and rivalries of the Great War. The legacy of World War I is a reminder of the dangers of nationalism, unresolved grievances, and unchecked power. The war's lessons continue to shape international relations, diplomacy, and our understanding of peace. By studying the Great War, we gain insight into the challenges and opportunities of our own time. World War I was a watershed moment in history. It destroyed old empires, created new nations, and unleashed powerful ideas that still shape our world. The borders, ideologies, and unresolved problems born from the Great War continue to influence global politics, society, and culture. By understanding how World War I created the modern world, we can better navigate the challenges of today and build a more peaceful future.